What's up, everybody? It's Jared with Capture the Magic, and in today's video, we're going to talk about the new Harry Potter series that is coming to HBO. Now, obviously, Harry Potter is a massive franchise that is almost synonymous as much as Star Wars was with an older generation, with a younger generation. That is kind of their Star Wars is Harry Potter, and they're relaunching Harry Potter on HBO into a series that's supposed to be much more of a detailed look. At each book is going to be its own season, and it's supposed to be much more closer to the source material. But it is also allegedly going to cost between $2 to $8 billion, according to the Daily Mail. And that's quite the explosion of the budget when it comes to making this show. And there's a lot of questions around this. So we have an article here from That Park Place that kind of delves into some of this. And we're just going to read through this and give some thoughts on it here. So it says the upcoming Harry Potter television series from HBO could be one of the most expensive shows in television history, with reports by the Daily Mail of an astronomical budget. According to the Daily Mail, each episode of the series is expected to cost a staggering £75 million, which is more than $100 million in USD. However, this figure contradicts earlier reporting by that same outlet as well. With an estimated 8 episodes per season planned over 7 seasons, one for each novel, that puts the total production budget at approximately £4.2 billion, or about $5.4 billion US at current exchange rates. However, previous Daily Mail reporting alleged a full 10 seasons of the show, which at the latest reported budget would put cost around $8 billion. And this is from Brett Desovic on Twitter X, says HBO is going to spend $75 million an episode on Harry Potter for streaming. If you do 7 seasons, 8 episodes per season, that's $600 million per season, roughly $4.2 billion total, just to dump it on HBO Max. That is, listen, some of Disney's budgets have been wild, but $600 million for one season, that is more than what most movies will do. Now, granted, there is much more time on a show. If you got 8 episodes, that's essentially, maybe close to 8 hours of content, depending on each length of the episode. But that puts what they would have to get in signups for HBO Max to justify that. I don't even know how many subscriptions that would be, and who knows how this is going to get received. Again, you're messing with a beloved franchise here, redoing this already. This would be like doing Star Wars all over again as a show, just 10, 20 years after Star Wars first came out. That's a tough hill to climb already, as many of the beloved actors from Harry Potter have now passed on. So you have that whole thing of what kids grew up with. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying that's a tough hill to climb, and especially when you throw in the budget of the reported budget of this, that just gets wild. I don't even know what that would look like, or how much, like I said, signups they'd have to get to justify that. If true, this would place Harry Potter firmly in the upper echelon of the most expensive TV productions ever made. It would even exceed Amazon's The Lord of the Rings of Power, which reportedly cost around $465 million for its first season, though total franchise costs, including rights acquisition, pushed Rings of Power overall bill north of $1 billion, which that show is not going great. But that's a big if. Conflicting reports on budget and series length. It says, according to a February 2024 report from the Daily Mail, Warner Brothers Discovery initially planned for 10 consecutive seasons of Harry Potter with a budget of approximately $200 million per season. At that estimate, the full production cost would be around $2 billion, putting it on par with HBO's other high-budget offerings like The House of the Dragon. However, a new report from the Daily Mail in May 2025 presents a drastically different figure. The latest estimate claims that the series will cost, again, $75 million per episode, which is basically $101 million at a current exchange rate. If the show follows an 8-episode season model, that would mean over $800 million per season, with a full $8 billion over 10 seasons, far exceeding the earlier expectations. It's a lot of money. It's important to note that while the Daily Mail reported that the series would span 10 seasons, other sources, including statements from Warner Brothers Discovery executives, have only indicated a plan for a decade-long production without specifying the exact number of seasons. With no official season count confirmed by HBO, the total budget remains speculative, but even at 7 seasons, the overall cost could rise beyond $5.4 billion, making Harry Potter the most expensive television series ever produced in terms of total expenditure. As of this writing, Warner Brothers has not addressed the discrepancy between the two budget reports, nor clarified the final series structure. And the show is not without its controversy, I guess you could say, as some of the casting decisions. I think most of the casting has been pretty spot on, except for when it comes to the casting of Snape, who they casted as of now, Papa Asidu, I think is how you say his name. And, I don't know. He's probably a fine actor. I don't know anything about him. But if you look at Snape's description in the books and Snape from the movies, he does not look like Snape. He's described in the books in a very specific way. And, even if you take skin color out of it, he doesn't fit that. Now, they could do prosthetics. They could do different things like that. But I think this has a lot of people worried because if you're already deviating from some of these characters in a major way, does that also mean you're going to deviate from the story itself? And I think these are legitimate concerns in this day and age in Hollywood about changes to stories, as we've seen multiple examples of that, and having, strayed from the source material, kind of done their own thing, and audiences don't like that. If you like the books, you want to see a true adaptation of the books. And so there's obviously some issues around that casting. Now, there's nothing I can find that has any validity to this, but there are rumors out there that either Papa Sidhu has withdrawn from the show or potentially fired from the show. Like I said, there's nothing to confirm that. So I think those are just rumors at this point, as it seems like that has mostly come from maybe some fan forums and things. But you're talking about a very passionate fan base, which is Harry Potter, obviously very similar to Star Wars. They kind of have a lot of similarities in there. And, I think when you're talking about this show was supposed to be as close to the book source material, they'd mentioned it was going to be much more of the source material from the books, as the movies were. Sometimes they were close, but obviously you're talking about movies. A lot of things from the books got cut out of those movies and changed. And this one was supposed to be a much, more accurate adaptation. And I think people look at the casting of that and just think like that changes so many of the dynamics of the story by, race swapping Snape, as many things happen to Snape when he's younger that would then have a whole different context to it if they changed it from how it was in the books. And I think that's the worry people have is it's not just the fact that you race swap the character. It's the fact that could potentially change the whole dynamics of this entire, show and the story being told. And then they say, is profitability possible? With projected costs between $2 to $8 billion for the entire run, the Harry Potter series will require exceptional subscriber growth, merchandising revenue, and global licensing deals to become profitable. Warner Brothers Discovery has not yet disclosed specific monetization strategies or advertising models for this series. Filming is scheduled to begin this summer with casting for the core trio Dominic McLaughlin as Harry, Arabella Stanton as Hermione, and Alistair Stout as Ron, which were recently confirmed. And the show is expected to premiere in 2026. I mean, when it comes to this show, Warner Brothers, who owns HBO, needs this to be successful. They are not in a great place financially. They are heavily in debt. There's a lot riding on. You've got the new Superman movie this summer, which I'm hoping that's good. I'm a massive Superman fan. But if that one doesn't do great, there's going to be even more pressure on this show. And if this budget is true, it is this high, I just have a very hard time seeing that this show is ever going to be profitable. And even if it is received well by the fan base, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to make you money if these budgets are that high. That seems astronomically high to me, that the budget for this show would be that high, just given what we've already seen from high-budget streaming shows have really, for the most part, not been profitable. So the assumption would be that you would, bring these costs down and try and do this show much more on the cheap. But again, I don't know where the cost would be with this. I don't know if it's with the actors, because a lot of these actors, I mean, you have some high-profile names in there. You have John Lithgow. The kids, I don't think are going to be that expensive. I don't know where that cost all comes from, but it is a big price tag if that is true. And, not only do you have the potential issues and people wondering, how accurate, how good is this going to be, but the budget itself is a whole other thing there. So if it is that high, I would be very curious as to what their profit model would be, how many subscribers they need, all these things to make this show profitable. Not to mention, too, you're already touching a beloved franchise that was already very well received in the movies. I mean, basically all the Harry Potter movies, from people who read the books to people who didn't read the books, for the most part, have really enjoyed the movies. And it's very rare that you do see that. So you already have a very, well-received movie franchise that's not that old, that obviously has ties into theme parks. And if this new show really takes off, does that change stuff in the theme parks? Like, you have a lot of things out there, a lot of question marks about this. And really, does the audience do they want a Harry Potter redo in a show format? I think it has a cool, potential in going more in depth with each book. And not to mention, like, how quickly can they get these seasons done? I mean, this is a major thing we've seen with some of these streamers is 2 to 3 years between seasons is a long time. And now you're dealing with a cast of kids. And if you don't, if you're not able to do a show per year, by the time you get to the end of those books, I mean, these kids are going to be, it's going to be like a Stranger Things situation. They're going to be almost 20 years old when you're trying to portray them still as in, basically high school. So there's a lot of question marks around this show. But if that is accurate, that this is going to cost between $2 to $8 billion for this entire show, that is quite the price tag. So this show is supposed to come out next year. I think they're filming for it right now. So not only do you have the budgets, you have some controversy around this show, and some of the major, characters like Voldemort, Sirius Black. Some of these characters have not been cast yet because they don't show up until later books. But very interesting, nonetheless. And I'm curious about this show. I will watch it, but I think the people that are going to watch this are going to be very critical of this. And if they're going to really make this show successful, they're going to have to really knock it out of the park in just about every category here. So we'll wait and see how this ends up panning out. But either way, that's a ton of money allocated to just a streaming show that you're not going to have any theatrical run with it. So we'll wait and see. But either way, that is going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel as we do this coverage here of theme parks and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about all this? And until next time, we will see you later.